Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Professor Ming's Strategic Insights. In recent days, the biggest news in international politics is the release of the United States National Security Strategy, also known as the NSS-2025. It identifies Communist China as a systemic competitor. It vows to strengthen its own economic, scientific, and military strength to counteract Communist China's predatory expansion. Since this is a very new and very fresh document, so what we can do today is to provide a preliminary analysis, and further analysis will follow in future days. Let's begin by pointing out some of its key points in the report. The first one is very interesting. The first one, to begin with, it says, Trump almost single-handedly reversed United States policy toward China, which based on a misleading assumption, as we mentioned before. It says it was believed that Communist China can be integrated into the rule-based international order by way of opening market to it and also by way of encouraging investment into it. But the question is, it did not happen. Quite the contrary. Communist China utilizes the accumulated wealth and strength to get an upper hand in its competition against the Western world. So it's equivalent to saying that the engagement policy being adopted by the United States toward mainland China for the past 4 or 5 decades has failed. And if you remember what I said about a year ago, that's what I call the era of the classical democratization theory. We're going to expand on that later on. So that's the first point. And the second point is it argues the core of the gamble or core of the competition between the United States and Communist China relies on economic competition. And they're going to counteract, the United States is going to counteract mainland China's policy of manufacturer laundry and predatory subsidies. The United States is going to promote a reorganization of the supply chain. And it encourages friendly countries such as European countries, Japan, Canada, Taiwan, South Korea, and so on and so forth, based on the principle of reciprocity and equality, to adopt policies to counteract China's policy, China's global dumping policy. And thirdly, the report argues the United States will have to maintain its leading position in technologies. So in the area of national security, it has to maintain absolute dominance. That's what it said. Absolute dominance in areas like AI, quantum computing, nuclear energy, space technology, and underwater technologies. And fourthly, United States cannot do it alone, cannot do it all alone, all by itself. So it needs allies. It needs to build more alliances in order to counteract the policies and the actions taken by Communist China in the name of the Belt Road Initiative. And it's taking effect in Latin American countries, African countries, and in even some Southeast Asian countries. So the United States is planning to mobilize its friends again in Europe, Japan, South Korea, so-called the Quad countries to invest and to input more resources and energy into areas like these. Well, we all know both the economy and technology are but the base of national power or national capabilities. In order to deter your enemy, be that prominent or potential, you need a very strong and very powerful military force. So the United States is going to build an army which is capable of deterring any kind of aggressive activities in anywhere in the first island chain. Therefore, not only the United States will put in more resources or capabilities in this area, it also encourages allies such as South Korea and Japan to invest more. More resources, more capabilities, and even more policy attention to this area. And it also wishes these countries would allow the United States to use more facilities such as bases and harbors and airports and things like that. And the last point, the sixth point, you must have guessed it. It's about Taiwan. This is what it says. Taiwan has received much attention, or significant attention, due to its pivotal role in global semiconductor supply chain. And there's more to it. Taiwan occupies the central position of the first island chain, which leads to the second island chain. And its role here, its strategic position here, divides up East Asia into two different strategic theaters, the Northeastern Theater and the Northeastern Asian Theater and Southeastern Asian Theater. And Taiwan happens to be in the center of these two theaters. And that gives it its importance. And it gives Taiwan its importance. Therefore, the primary mission for the United States in the region is to deter a conflict occurring in Taiwan or in the Taiwan Strait area, ideally by way of maintaining a military advantage or military dominance. And the United States maintains its long-term policy, which is they do not support any kind of activity which unilaterally changes the status quo of the area, of the Taiwan Strait area. So these are the basic key elements contained in the report. So what's Beijing's reaction to this NSS-2025? Well, we must say it's relatively mild. The reason for it is like this. The government reiterates its official position over Taiwan sovereignty. It warns any outsider which try to intervene in the situation not to support Taiwan independence. And they say, Taiwan is part of one China. Any foreign support for Taiwan is a violation of the so-called red line. Beijing vows to safeguard its national security, national sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and warns if the United States should intervene with more military or economic measures, there will be more countermeasures be taken by Beijing. So like I said, it's relatively mild. Because I think they're still thinking about the possibility of a Trump and Xi Jinping meeting or Trump and Xi Jinping summit in the coming April. So they want to maintain kind of low-key. Just wait for the summit between the two leaders to put down their chips. Compared to the official reaction, the reactions or the responses from the civilian side, be them scholars, individual scholars, or a research institute or think tanks, the reaction is much more mixed. Some argue that this is probably the biggest directional change in terms of United States-China policy. It changes from mild competition to limited cooperation and all the way to systemic containment and comprehensive competition. It poses a major threat to the security, to the national security of mainland China. This is first line of argument. And the other line of arguments goes like, the United States somewhat admits that Communist China has become number two in world politics, not only in world politics, but also in the world economy. So it's almost like a G2, as proposed by President Trump in his previous comments and in other reports. So in fact, the United States admits its de facto failure in its trade war against Communist China. It was the countermeasures taken by Communist China makes the United States adjust its policy and adjust its position, and also its tones in this report. But some people argue, although the tone of the report is kind of tough and kind of harsh, the United States still wish to avoid a direct military confrontation against Communist China because it knows it's incapable to do that in terms of its military power and also because of the uncertainty of the outcome of the possible war. It also argues that the United States admits it cannot contain China all by itself. So it has to garner force or garner help from allies and friends or even surrounding countries in the area. Therefore, to Communist China, this report is not only a challenge, but also it's an excuse. It's an excuse for China to do more so-called legal defense and justified defense and to strengthen its military strategy and its military deployment in the area. This is the preliminary analysis of the report. Remember what I said last week? I brought up an observation. I said in the eyes of Beijing's decision makers, Trump has its own weaknesses and can be manipulated. The easiest way is to lure Trump into saying in public, the United States opposes Taiwan independence. if you take the option of independence away from Taiwan, and there will be peace in Taiwan or in the Taiwan Strait. And therefore, Trump is a peacemaker or the creator of peace in the region. And Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. And of course, the best form to do it is to have a fourth communique between Beijing and Washington, or at least an open official declaration will do the job. Well, there's more to come when we have more details of the report and more responses from the countries and the parties involved in this report. But that's all I want to share with you today. I hope you like it. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our program, please do so and share it with your friends. And do not forget to click the icon bell so that you can get an on-time notification. That's all for today, and I'll see you next time.